begins. All right, man. We'll close out the show. We're talking about the ACC basketball. We didn't have a chance to do our preview because everything happened so quickly, but we're still in the infancy of the college basketball season anyway. But just looking at it, man, outside of a few teams, outside of Carolina, Virginia, I think Virginia's gonna be very good. Duke, maybe Wake, Miami, Wake, and Virginia Tech, and possibly Notre Dame. I don't know. I don't know, dude. Florida State getting manhandled by Florida and out of conference. Louisville being 0-5 and getting crushed today by Texas Tech. Oh my God, Pitt getting lambasted by a West Virginia team, who I don't think is all that good. Boston College losing to Stetson last night. Georgia Tech blowing the game the other night. I don't know, man. It's just I haven't seen the ACC in so weak in basketball in back-to-back years in a very long time, and we may get that this year. I don't know
Yeah,
what to make of it.
yeah. Should we start with let's start with the bad news first, and then we'll end on a
Get that
high
out of the
note.
way.
We'll start on a high note. Yeah, the
Right.
the the bottom of the ACC. I mean, there's just no other way to describe it other than it's absolutely atrocious.
Right.
Um, I mean, there are some really, really bad teams in the ACC, and the problem is they're doing so poorly out of conference. It's going to drag down the NCAA, possible teams. You get a bubble team when it comes down to March, and you know wins against Louisville and Pitt and Boston College are not going to count for anything because their
Mhm.
computer numbers are going to be so bad. Louisville is absolutely horrible. They might turn out to be one of the worst ACC teams we've ever seen. I mean, they're 0-5, and they can easily start the year like 1-9 or something like that.
Right.
Florida State, I think it's going to be better, but the problem
Mhm.
is they've taken so many early season losses um, that they're gonna drag down the ACC as well. And you mentioned it, Boston College terrible, Pitt's terrible. Uh, we already talked about Louisville. Syracuse took a loss to Colgate a couple
Yes.
weeks ago. I mean,
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
just the losses just keep adding up. I mean, Clemson, goes down to Columbia and loses to a terrible South Carolina team. I mean, and that's one of the good losses,
Yeah.
and
Right.
like you talked about Georgia Tech. I mean, yesterday they're leading, a good majority of the final 10 minutes against a Utah team that most people had near the bottom of the Pac-12, and that's one of the good losses.
Yeah.
Um, that's the bad news. The good news is even though it is another year following last year where the ACC is down, the top of the ACC is much better this year than it was
Yes, it
last year.
is.
And,
Especially Virginia.
and
Virginia was
oh my gosh,
very
yeah,
good.
absolutely. Virginia coming out, knocking off Baylor and then beating a really good Illinois team. I mean,
Hmm.
that I don't know. I don't know. There's not another team in the country that's got a better pair of wins than that. And then right now, they are carrying the ACC with what Tony Bennett has done.
Yeah.
Last year, Duke was the only, legitimate top 15 team in the ACC. Of course, they played very well in the tournament, but going into the tournament, Duke was your only really quality looking team that
Right.
went into March. But this year, North Carolina is going to be there. We hadn't seen them really turn it on, but we know how talented they are.
Yeah. They got
You
everybody
know,
back too.
they got
So
everybody, Baycock back, and
yeah.
and they're going to get it together. They can score a ton. We know Duke is very talented.
Yeah.
They lost to Kansas, but they proved that they're a legitimate top 10 team. They were right
Right.
there with Kansas in that game, and then of course we've already talked about um, Virginia with those two great wins this past weekend. Following on the footsteps of that the tragic week in Virginia, so a
Yes.
big movement for their athletic program. So
Right.
we've got the ACC, at the bottom as being as bad as we could ever see it, and then and then on the top they got three of the top 10 teams in the country,
Correct.
and I think Virginia Tech. is top 25 caliber. I know they
I
lost
do.
at College of Charleston, but they beat a good Penn State
Yeah, they
team
did.
down there, and they're gonna that's a tournament quality team. Miami, I think they got a win over Providence.
Providence, yep.
Struggled against Maryland, but I think Maryland's going to be very good. I think you'll see Miami be there in the end, and then like you said, there's the Notre Dames and the Notre Dames and the NC States and the Wake Forest that are kind of in the middle. But I
Yeah,
mean, I think there's three, you know, number one, number two seed caliber teams in the ACC, and
right.
I think you've got a couple more, two or three more NCAA caliber teams. So it's really weird this year in the ACC because the conference is not down as a whole. It's just really bad at the bottom, really, really good at the top,
Yes,
and a kind of a questionable middle. And
right.
I still think you can see, five. Well, you get at least five, but you could have as many as 6 or 7 NCAA teams by the end of the year. It's just really what the top of the ACC do. What I said this on Twitter. What the top of the ACC is going to do to the bottom of the ACC this year
Yeah.
should be banned in most countries because it, when North Carolina gets hold of Boston College
Oh
or
my God.
Virginia plays Louisville, it's going to
Woo!
be really, really ugly.
You know what? It's funny. I'm on Cincinnati, where I'm at right now. It's only an hour and a half north of Louisville. It's a
Yep.
quick drive, easy drive down Highway 71. Yeah, I don't know if I should see me. I think me watching that game, any of Louisville's games in person, would be a crime beyond, like a crime to all humanity, because they're terrible. They are just terrible. And Florida
Yep.
State is, and as much as I like the head coach, they're terrible. I know they got some players out right now, but Jesus Christ, they don't look good at all.
No.
Man,
No.
it's terrible. We will see, man. But I don't have my hopes too high for the league as far as a whole.
No.
Now, again, the top's great. The middle has to determine how strong this conference is going to be throughout the season. The bottom 4, 5, and 6, yeah, we don't need them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to find out. Is this going to be a 5-bid league or a 7-bid league? I think the bottom is too bad to have one of those vintage years where the ACC is looking at 9 or 10
Yeah.
bids. But yeah, the bottom's going to determine if it's 5 or 7. Maybe there could be an 8th team. And it all depends on those middle teams, the NC States, the Wake Forest, the Notre Dames. I think Syracuse has got a pre-conference tournament tonight,
Right.
championship game against St. John's. And, you win one of those preseason tournaments, you can kind of make up for that Colgate loss. So, we'll see if
Yes.
they can kind of start righting the ship.
And we play Kansas tomorrow.
That's a big
at noon.
opportunity. Big
Huge opportunity.
opportunity.
Huge
Yep.
opportunity for us. So we'll see about that.